All right, we're live. I'm here with Angel. This is Brian from over here at Quick-Latch Products in Plano, Texas. And what we're going to do, he brought down a 2016 S550 Mustang, a beautiful example. And what we're going to do is we're going to install the bumper latch kit on his Mustang, and he's going to go ahead and film the process for me while I go ahead and demonstrate step by step how to get it done. So a week ago, we actually went out to Performance TV. We filmed a 5-minute segment on a how-to on getting the bumper latch kit system installed on a S550 Mustang. But what I wanted to do was actually show start to finish how to get these latches installed without any editing, without skipping any steps. You'll be able to see step by step how to get it done. And after you watch it, you'll be able to determine if that's within your comfort level or if you want to hire somebody else to get it done. So without any further delay. Okay. All right, so we had a few Wi-Fi issues. We're back live again, so I'm going to pick up where we left off. We're just breaking the lug nuts loose on both sides, and then we'll go ahead and jack the car up and put it up on jack stands. And so keep in mind, this is a process that you can do in your own driveway. You don't, if this matches up with your comfort level after you watch this whole video. The reason I'm not performing this inside of a shop is I wanted to show how you can do this in your own driveway by yourself if you choose to do so. All right, we got all the lugs broke loose, so the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and jack the car up and put it on jack stands. Now, of course, I'm sure if you guys are watching this, this is obviously a very basic step, but I didn't want to leave it out because I just wanted to show an accurate representation of what this process takes start to finish, even if it's a very basic step included. Okay, so after the tires are removed, the first thing that I like to do is just go ahead and locate these plastic push pins right here. On some of y'all's cars, they might even be missing. Sometimes it's pretty often that they're missing. Sometimes they're still there. But there's about there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And once we remove these plastic push pins, we'll be able to pull back the inner fender liner so that we can gain access to the bumper mounting clips that are behind the front bumper right here. So that'll be the next step in the process. So what I like to use for that process is just a combination of tools. You can use what you want, but this is what works for me. It's definitely springtime in Texas because I'm already busting a sweat. So just a pocket screwdriver, a little clip puller right here. You can find one of these at Sears for I think like $9, and some wire cutters if necessary. They just pull out like that. Just make sure to keep the center part with the piece that came out, because I think some of them are not interchangeable. Yeah, because like this one right here, this a little bit higher up, it's actually smaller. Okay, so once you got those clips pulled out, you can actually take this inner fender liner and gently pull it back. You don't have to take the fender liner completely out. Just enough to pull it back to gain access to where you're going to need to get to in order to get these the bumper partially removed. I think there's one more I need to take out there. Right there. there we go. So now we have plenty of room to access the 7mm that mounts to the bumper mounting clip, and it also bolts into the front bumper cover right here. And I don't know, are you able to get in on that 7mm right there?
Should be.
Okay. So Angela, if you could like zoom in right here on that 7mm so that they can see what I'm talking about. It's kind of hard to see when you're first looking for it, but it kind of bolts in from the top down, and I'm pointing at it like right here. But if it doesn't clearly show in the video, I'm sure if you look close enough, you'll see it after looking a little bit. So the next thing I'll do is I'll just go ahead and I'll just use a 7mm wrench. You can also use a socket and ratchet 1/4 inch. If you so choose to do so. There it is. For this install, we don't reinstall these 7mm. We do away with these. We will keep the plastic bracket on there, but this is not necessary to reinstall for this particular modification. So the next thing I'll do is, in order to prevent the bumper from excessively flexing while we pull the bumper cover away, what I'll do is I'll undo the fasteners that bolt it to the top. That way we'll get plenty of room to flex this front bumper cover back and forth. You don't need to remove the entire bumper, but it does help to remove some of the fasteners so that you can get plenty of flex and room to maneuver the bumper while we're getting the pins located. So that'll be the next thing that I do. And these clips are similar to what mounts on the inner fender liners. Pretty much the same process getting these things out. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 8mm bolts, and then 2 7mm kind of hiding under the weather strip right there. So we'll go ahead and remove all those, and that'll give us the ability to work around this bumper a little more. And when we're getting the pins located, we won't flex this bumper excessively and distort it. Some guys may or may not be doing this, but I just like to err on the side of caution. That's why I undo these. It really doesn't take that much time to do it. Okay, so we'll move on to the other side. We'll take the push pins out over here as well. And this is what I meant by some of them. You'll see that they're missing. It's already broke out right there, right here. But what we can do is we can actually drill some auxiliary holes when we put this back together, and we can zip tie it all back into place. That's not really that much of a problem. again, we'll just pull this back just enough to gain clearance to get to the 7mm that holds that plastic clip in there. So this side is actually not damaged. Here we see pretty good OEM fitment. It's really not much of an issue, but Angel, did you catch the other side, how it currently looks?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. All right, so we got that 7mm out. And so what I'm going to do next, before I proceed, I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands, because staying clean is pretty critical for the next steps of the process. So I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands. I'll be right back. So I'm back, so I'm all cleaned up. The reason I say it's pretty critical to be clean during the next part of the process is, you know, we'll be doing a little bit drilling into the paint, and I don't want to do anything that maybe rub up against the paint with some dirt on my hands or something and scratch it. So that's why I say it's critical to get cleaned up. It's not a race. Take your time. I might have to go back and forth several times to get cleaned up, but you only get one shot, so that's why I say it's critical to stay clean throughout this process. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward here. So the next thing, as you can see right here, that the bumper gap fitment is not ideal. We don't know what's currently behind right here. Angel, how did this happen again? This happened during the splitter installation process?
Yes it did.
Okay. So yeah, it seems to be a pretty common issue. So anytime the front bumper is removed for maybe headlight mods or installation of a front splitter or something like that, we just run into this. The tabs on the bumper cover, they just get distorted or they break, and that's where our product can step in and help you out. So the next step is, I'll just go ahead and pull it out, and yeah, it just pulled right out there. So this is a perfect example right here. You can see how the molded tab on the bumper cover has broken in half, and that's why it's not clipping in. So the next step of this process is to go ahead and remove this plastic clip right here. It's held in by two 8mm bolts. Now initially during this part of the process, what we were doing was getting rid of these plastic clips altogether, but after a few other test installs, what we found is that retaining the use of these clips is actually ideal. All you got to do is actually hollow out the center of it, and it will help provide rigidity to the bumper even after we install the latch. And I'll show you a little more as to the why of that as this installation progresses. After the two 8mm bolts are removed, just go ahead and pull the clip out right there. It's got a little claw on the back, but we're going to cut that off and get rid of it, but we will retain the use of these 8mm bolts. So for now, we'll just set that to the side. Okay, so the next step of this process is to locate the Quick-Latch mounting ball pin. And this particular square location right here that's already present inside the fender works as a perfect mounting point for the ball pin. So these are the latches that we're going to be installing onto the vehicle. QL25 SB1, that's part of the, well, the primary part of the kit right there. We're also going to be utilizing 4 neoprene washers, a couple assist springs right there, and 2 additional 1/4-inch nuts so that we can double nut the backside of the pin just to as insurance to make sure the nuts don't back off. Oh, and last but not least, thread locker after all of our components have been had their final adjustments finalized. All right, so for this part of the process, I'm just going to put on some gloves just to make sure, just to minimize the transference of skin oil to the paint. Because I'm going to be doing some pressing onto the front bumper cover, and because I'm picky with my own installs, I just try to prefer, if there's any fingerprints, try to keep it to a minimum. Okay, so we've already located where we're going to mount the pin, and I found for the installations that I've done, when you locate the pin up here to the upper portion of this square piece right here, that has typically been the ideal location on every single install that I've done. So that's where I'm going to locate this one as well. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the metal washer, neoprene washer, and then another neoprene washer on the other side, another metal washer, put it on the back side of that ball pin, 1/4-inch nut, and we're going to screw this all together with a preliminary adjustment to see where we can get this where we want it to be. So what I'm going to do is we're going to adjust this front bumper cover to where we want the gap to be set, and also we'll have the ball pin set at that exact location as well. And once we have it all to where the ball pin is flush with the bumper as the gap is set where we want it, what we'll do is we'll push the bumper up against the ball pin, and that will let us know exactly where to drill. So this takes a little bit of a trial and error. We'll adjust the pin in and out until it's pretty close to flush with the bumper cover at the gap that we want it to be set at. So right now it's a little, that's pretty close right there actually. So what we're going to try to do is right here, that's about the gap that we want. Angel, you happy with that gap right there?
Yes, sir.
All right. So as we press up against the ball pin, you'll see a little indentation start to appear. Just apply light pressure. You don't have to push it really hard. Just lightly press until you see a little indentation appear on the bumper cover. So I'm going to go ahead and push against it. Oh, wait a second. I'm going to make sure this is set. Getting a little ahead of myself. Okay. So that's pretty much the ideal gap that we want right there. So I'm going to go ahead and push. And we can see right here. You might have to rotate the phone around a little bit to get how it looks right there. Is it showing on the phone at all?
Yeah, if you drop your hand over here, the sun, there you can see it.
Okay. So that's pretty much all you need in regards to knowing where to drill. because this little indentation right here directly lines up with where we mounted the ball pin at. So there's no guesswork involved. I'm just going to tighten that up just a tiny bit so it doesn't move. All right, so what I do from here, and this is probably the most nerve-wracking part that keeps most people from wanting to do it themselves, but as long as, again, you got your little indentation set, the pin hasn't moved at all, the next step is to just go ahead and drill a pilot hole exactly where that indentation is. And then, before you widen it out, just make sure that the pilot hole lines up exactly with the ball pin. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so we got that initial hole drilled. And when we look through there, you can see the pin peeking through right there. So that lets us know that we're clear to go ahead and widen it out. And because I'm cautious in how I do things, some people might go straight to a step drill bit, but I gradually widen the hole before I even go with the step drill bit. So I'll widen the hole a bit, and then I'll put painter's tape over that hole, and then we'll proceed with the step drill bit that drills the hole out to a perfect 3/4 inch hole. So I'm going to go ahead and widen this up a bit. So again, see how the ball pin's peeking through right there? That lets us know we're dead on. So there's no apprehension about this. There's nothing to worry about. And I'm going to step up the hole size one more time before we transition to the step drill bit. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and widen this hole out to 3/4 inch. Now this step drill bit maxes out at 3/4 inch. If you have one that goes deeper than 3/4 inch, what I would recommend doing is taping it off at 3/4 inch so you don't go higher than what you need. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and widen this hole out. Painter's tape pulled off. So then when we get this bumper line back up, you'll see that it's lined up with the center line of the hole right there. All right. So the next thing I do is we'll just go ahead and get the latch body mounted to the bumper cover. And we're just going to do some preliminary adjustments. Take a 22 or a 7/8 and hand tighten it. And what should happen, as long as you got this ball pin adjusted at the right depth, it should clip right in. But this is, like I said, a preliminary adjustment, so of course the gap's not correct yet. But at least we know we're close enough to where we get it to latch in there. So here's why I like to add or keep the use of these plastic pieces right here, is because the latch mounts right here in the upper part of the bumper cover, but this part down here on the lower side, it kind of flexes a little bit. So in my opinion, it's good to keep the use of this because it still provides rigidity from this part of the bumper down to the lower side. So we're pretty close with the adjustment on this ball pin right here. I'm pretty happy with it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we'll modify this piece right here. We'll cut out the center. We'll keep these two holes for the 8mm, but we're going to hollow out the center right here, and so that the ball pin can stick right through it. We'll install it back to the car, and then we'll make our final adjustments. So first step that I do when I hollow these out, I'll just go ahead and cut off that tab right there. And then we'll head on over. I got to get some, it's an air air-powered grinder, and we're going to grind out the center of it. So we'll go over to the air hose over here, and we'll go ahead and hollow it out. So as long as you get it to where it looks similar to this, you will be able to fit the ball pin directly through here, and we're going to go ahead and reinstall this to the car, and we'll go ahead and move forward with our adjustments. Of course, I'm looking goofy because it's a live video. I'm struggling just to get an 8mm in. Come on. All right, there we go. Okay, so as you can see, the bolt protrudes directly through the plastic mounting tab right there. So we'll just kind of do a preliminary set. So the latch actually responds differently with the tab installed. So it does take a little bit of trial and error with the adjustment process. So you got to be a little patient with it. Oh, that's why I'm doing it live, to show you. And there it is. Initial adjustment. It's a little on the tight side. So what we have right here is the latch is installed, preliminary adjustment set, and the bumper cover is located within the mounting tab itself, so you still got the rigidity holding that bumper from flapping around as well. So before I make the final adjustments, I also like to add the spring here. It kind of keeps everything held tightly together as well. And before, I just want to know how it will react with the spring as well. You need to get that tightened up just a little bit there. So that's pretty close to OEM fitment right there. So I pretty much have everything hand tight right now. Barely tightened up, but what I'm going to do is, after we're happy with both sides being set, we'll go ahead and make the final snug down, and we'll apply Loctite to everything, and that'll be that. And it just kind of operates as so, like that. All right, well, so we'll go ahead and move on to the other side. So this side, the clips are not broken, but what we'll do is we'll go ahead and gently pull the bumper out, like that, and we'll remove the bumper clip like the other side. Angel, I need to go ahead and take a break for a second. Do you mind if we continue on in a moment?
Yeah.
All right. We'll continue this, or is this still rolling?
Yeah.
All right, we'll continue this in a few moments.
Just push finish?
Yeah. Okay, we're live. All right, yeah, so me and Angel, we took a water break, and we're gonna go ahead and proceed where we left off at. So where we left off at was we just pulled the front bumper cover back from the passenger side clip. We're gonna go ahead and repeat the same process that we followed on the passenger side that we did for the driver's side. So 2 8mm bolts, we'll go ahead and pull them out of this clip here. We'll pull the clip out, and we'll hollow it out, and we will locate the ball pin to the inner fender there. Okay, so if you're just tuning in here, we're doing a bumper latch install 2016 S550 Mustang. We already covered the basic steps of the installation process on the driver's side, so now we're going to go ahead and repeat the process on the passenger side. The process is identical, so in case you're just tuning in, I'll go ahead and detail this process once again. So if you find yourself with a broken bumper, the molded tabs right here broken on your S550 Mustang, our Quick-Latch system can help solve that issue without having to purchase a brand new bumper. We've already removed the molded plastic bumper mounting clips, or a clip that mounts right here with two 8mm bolts. And there's a square hole that happens to work quite well for the pin locating process. I like to just locate it right here in the upper corner, just push it all the way up. That has been the ideal location in my experience. So what I'll go ahead and do is mount the ball pin up. We'll just do some preliminary adjustments. And what we're going to want to do so that we know where to drill is that we'll want the ball pin flush with the bumper at when the bumper is flush with the fender. So we'll go ahead and release the bumper. So the ball pin right now, as you can see, the bumper's not flush. That means the ball pin's too far out, so we need to adjust it in a little bit. Still too far out. So that's pretty close right there. So as you can see, the all the lines line up right here. And bring it a little further out. And take your time with this part of the process because this is the most important part. So if you have any doubts, just take your time. Just make sure you have exactly where you want it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to determine where we want to drill our pilot hole for locating the latch portion onto the front bumper. So Angel, as long as you're happy with these lines right here, I'll go ahead and proceed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so in order to determine where we're going to drill our pilot hole at, we get everything lined up. We've got the ball pin flush with the bumper. The lines with the bumper match up with the lines on the fender. And we're just going to gently press the bumper against the ball pin so that a small indentation appears on the bumper. And the phone should pick it up pretty well because it'll show up on black paint pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and gently press. And we can see it right here. I don't know if the phone's picking that up. You might have to move from one move the perspective on it. So that lets us know exactly where we need to drill our pilot hole at. We'll drill a pilot hole through there. And then we'll double check to make sure it's lined up with the ball pin before we go any further with it. Get that little... Okay, and we can see the foam probably won't pick it up, but you can see directly through the hole that the pin is directly behind it. So there shouldn't be any worries in regards to enlarging the hole at this point. So what I will do is just gradually step up the size of the hole before I transition to utilizing a step drill bit. The phone should pick that up. See, the ball pin is directly behind right there. All right. Now that we have the pilot hole drilled, we'll go ahead and put some painter's tape on here, and we'll enlarge this hole to 3/4 inch. And as you can see, the pin is centrally located within that 3/4 inch hole that we drilled right there. So the next part of the process is essentially a trial and error process of adjustment of the pin in and out until you have the gaps set where you want. So this is actually probably the most time consuming part of the process. Takes a little patience. But the hard part's over. And just to let us know if we're in the ballpark or not, I'll just hand tight the latch onto there, and as we can see, the latch just snaps right in, no problem. So we're pretty close already. So before I do anything further in regards to the in and out adjustment of the pin itself, what I will do is, just like on the other side, because we don't want this going on while the car's driving down the road, because the latch is located right here. So we want to retain the use of this plastic retaining clip, because it will keep the OEM rigidity of the bumper cover itself. So we're going to go ahead and modify this so that the ball pin will stick right through it, and we'll mount it to the car, and we'll go ahead and finalize our adjustments. So this mounting clip right here, I forgot to mention on the other one, it's got a little locating tab right there. Just take you some wire cutters, snap it right off. That's the first step, and then just go ahead and proceed with a grinding tool of some sort to go ahead and hollow it out. And there may be multiple methods to doing this, but this is just my preferred way. I'm not saying if anybody's methods are right or wrong, but this is just what I've found that works best for the installations that I've done. And this isn't even necessarily a pretty process, but it does work. So I'll go ahead and start hollowing this out. But when you grind this out, you just want to make sure you hollow out this portion right here. You don't want to transition into where these circular areas are. Okay, so that's pretty much what you're going to want it to look like right there. Just the center portion hollowed out, and just be sure not to grind into these circular areas where the bolts mount, and you should be good to go. So we'll go ahead and mount this back to the vehicle. Because I had plastic flying all over that glove, because I don't want to scratch the paint on the car, I'm just going to go ahead and change it out. Just out of an abundance of caution, because it's just really easy to scratch paint. Of course, my hand's sweaty. All right. All right, so we got our preliminary adjustments set. So I'll go ahead and undo this latch right here. We'll go ahead and remount the OEM, modified OEM plastic clip to the vehicle. 2 8mm bolts. All right, and we'll do another test fit here. That's pretty close. We're gonna see how it, and because the clips aren't broken on this side, they just re-engaged again, which is good. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this back out, and we're gonna see how it reacts with the spring installed. If it looks very close, then I'm gonna go ahead and say that that adjustment is set as well. So these springs come with retainers that push on over the ball pin, but make sure you don't install those retainers until all your final adjustments and Loctite is installed. That's the very last step of this process. I'm just putting the spring on right now to make sure to see how it all reacts with the spring installed, and to make sure all the adjustments still look good. And I'm pretty happy with that gap. What do you think, Angel?
Looks perfect.
All right, man. So we'll go ahead and snug this down. Okay, so the next step of the process is when you're happy with your adjustments and the gaps, what I do is I will snug down the 1/4" bolts on both sides of this nut, on both sides of the bolt, until I see the neoprene washer start to protrude very slightly past the metal washer. You don't have to crank down hard on these, because what's going to happen is after you got them snugged down, you're going to want to put Loctite on all the threaded portions of this latch. All the threaded portions of the ball pin and the latch body, and that's going to keep everything from backing off on you. And this Loctite is like super heavy duty, so make sure when all your adjustments are set, only at that point do you apply the Loctite, because it'll be pretty difficult to get everything disengaged after it sets and dries. You mind holding this bumper back a little bit for me? What I'm doing is just like the final snug down process. And the camera phone is probably not going to pick it up because everything's black in color. But I just tighten these down until the neoprene washer begins to protrude slightly past the metal washer. And I've found that that's plenty tight enough, because again, after you apply the Loctite, nothing's going to back off on you. So there we go. So after you tighten that down, Do another test fit just to make sure nothing moved. So it looks the same to me, so I'm pretty happy with that. So at that point, I'll just disengage it, do multiple tests on it just to make sure I'm happy with that. Okay, so I'll take the spring back out. We're gonna put this back on in a minute, but the next step after we got all the adjustments set is to apply Loctite to all threaded components, because all these cars, they emit a lot of vibration, and you're going to want to make sure that nothing can rattle apart. And the way to mitigate that is to apply thread locker to all components. So this is what's included with the kit right here. Just cut the tip off there, and we'll go ahead and apply it to the latch itself. One thing I forgot to mention is what I like to do with the latch body. This is a 22 millimeter socket. You don't have to put a ratchet on it. I just crank it down by hand until it tightens up against the bumper cover, and then I'll apply Loctite to it. Should be good to go. And what this particular brand of thread locker, it will actually seep into the interior of the threads of the nut, between the nut and the ball pin. So it will seep into in between everything and get into every single part of that threaded component. I would recommend allowing the car to sit for a while before driving it so that this can fully cure.
So you got about 10%.
Okay.
I'd hit the OK sign.
You know what? I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So I'll just tell them, you know, the battery. The battery is, hey guys, the battery on my phone's about to go dead, but hopefully this provided you guys with some value. If you like it, please share it. If you know an S550 owner who needs this product, just please tag them in this video. Hopefully it'll help some more guys out. But this is the basic installation steps. We went through the hardest part of the process, and so as you can see, we have finalized the adjustments on this side. I will just add one more thing here. So now that we finalized the adjustments there's a spring retainer right here that pushes on over the ball pin, and that will keep the spring retained to the car even when you disengage the latch. So I'll show you how to do that as well. Angel, if you don't mind holding this bumper back just a little bit there. And this goes right here. Get yourself an 11 millimeter socket, and how it presses on is like this. Just make sure you do this in the last step of the process right there, because that retainer does not come off after it's a one-way retainer. And then once that's done, push everything back together. Done. So we're going to go ahead and reassemble this car. I actually wanted to go fully through the process, you know, taking the wheels off all the way to putting the wheels back on and torquing them down, but looks like I'm going to run out of battery before I run out of time. So I hope you guys found value in this video. If you like it, share it, and I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you.